Welcome back. This segment of the Sports Source is brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. They do a tremendous job in terms of protecting your home from anything that might be trying to invade. And as the fall weather comes, that's where bugs try to go. They want inside your house. They want it to be warmer. Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Give them a call. All right. I want to welcome in the next wave of folks we have right here. Jimmy Himes, we have Michael Spencer, we have Mike Strange. Of course, Chuck's still there down there. Appreciate all you guys for being with us today. We asked last week on the show, all right, are you starting to get into the range of injuries where you have to reconsider your expectations for the Tennessee football team? We've had a couple more injuries this week that we know about. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the issues, if we've got this, some of the injuries and suspensions. There we go. Out for the year, we knew this Marcus Jackson, we knew Rashawn Golden, Austin Sanders. Out indefinitely, we learned this week, Ladero McNeil with what sounds like a serious neck injury. Not sure when he'll be back, if he will be back this year. Jason Kroom, wide receiver, he was going to be in your rotation of your key wideouts. He had to have a scope done on that same knee that he had injured in the offseason. And then you got Pig Howard, who it was learned this week is suspended for the Bowling Green game. Your thoughts, first of all, on the injuries or the Howard suspension? Any news to share there?
The thing that I was told in regard to Jason Kroom and Vincent Perry, who had their knee scopes on Friday, neither one of them were that serious, and they expect that they will be back. It'll take a little more than a month, but they'll be out at least a month, but they do anticipate having him back.
So that's Kroom. Are they still, it looked like from their press conference last week that Perry was going to get a red shirt. Thoughts on that?
I think he probably will, just because not necessarily the injury, but the depth.
Yeah.
You don't need to try to bring him back 4 or 5 games into the season. So I think he's going to probably redshirt.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the receiver situation. I think this is an interesting list if we can get to it. There we go. Jason Kroom said the scope and should be back at some point here in the season. Pig Howard, the 1-game suspension. Juwan Jennings has been a godsend, moving in the rookie, moving in from quarterback to receiver. Jonathan Johnson, who's just solid. He's just solid. Josh Malone looking to have a better year than he did in his first year where the expectations were so high. Marquez North is back from a knee sprain that got a lot of attention earlier. Von Pearson missed quite a bit of camp with legal issues that have now been cleared. Vincent Perry, red shirt, got the knee injury that Jimmy just talked about. Josh Smith, he's had some nagging injuries in camp, and we know last year had that high ankle sprain that really cost him his season. And Preston Williams has been cleared, that's some good news this week, cleared from his ACT scores by the NCAA, but he's missed a lot of camp. So thoughts on that receiving core? You said they do have depth, they do, but you look at it, you've had some guys that have missed camp, you've got some guys that still have some nagging injuries. I think that's a perfect example because we've spent so much of the offseason saying, wide receiver, you're good there. Couple of weeks can change all that, it seems.
Kind of reminds you of last year, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure does.
Tennessee had 6 receivers that went down last year at some point. I still think they can put a quality group of receivers, but boy, they sure can't afford to have many more of them go down.
No. Great guys.
My thoughts exactly. It reminds you a lot of last year. We entered last year saying, hey, they're really deep at the wide receiver spot. All of a sudden, they start going down. I think depth is still a concern really across the board for Tennessee this year.
I think they'll be okay at Bowling Green, but beyond that, when guys have recurring injuries, I think that's a concern. Like Josh Smith, like Jason Kroom, that you wonder, is this not going to get fixed? Is this not going to get well?
And how soon can you get Preston Williams on the field, in a meaningful role? I mean, that's going to be, to me, really key to that. And do you want to do 3 wide? Do you want to do 4 wide? Or what does your offensive coordinator want to do? And this depth starts having more to do with your options there, too.
Okay, well, here's my question. We talked about it last week, and it was, should Tennessee fans start to readjust their expectations? And again, the answer was basically, from most of us, depends on who they lose. There are some positions you can't lose. All right, McNeil out. So now you've got two guys who are starters in your secondary that aren't there. Golden and McNeil. Yeah. You take Kroom out for a part of this. Are you getting to that point now where you adjust the expectations, or were those not 2 key spots?
No, I've adjusted.
Have you?
Yeah. I don't think McNeil's going to play. And you take out Golden, who's basically a starter. You take out 2 guys from the second. And it was interesting to me is that wide receiver and defensive back were the 2 areas where Tennessee had the most depth.
Yeah.
And they've been hit the hardest. But I don't know how you can take out 2 starters. Now, what do you do at safety with McNeil? Is it Todd Kelly Jr.? Is it Evan Berry? With Golden, they're still trying to figure out, is it Malik Foreman? Is Justin Martin going to play there? there's so many pieces they're having to move around a little bit. I was at 8 or 9 wins. I'm at 7 or 8.
Guys?
I was at 8 wins, but I think Jimmy just convinced me to lower my expectations just a little bit, seriously, because I think you are now at this point, you're one more away. And all of a sudden, one more can come at any time, as we've seen throughout camp. That's a lot of guys to have injured in one camp. You're one more away from being a game or two down from where you originally were.
If I were at 9 or 10, it would change it, but I'm sticking at 8, and I'm still hanging barely with my fingernails at 8.
And it can also tip the scales a little bit too on special teams. I mean, Galton was one of your top guys there, and that could be how you end up one
McNeil
game.
plays
McNeil,
special.
yeah. So, I mean,
a lot of these guys.
I had
What's kind of funny is that you almost hope that Preston Williams, the 5-star, takes to the position as quickly as Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that?
Yeah, exactly.
But if he can, then he can help Tennessee early.
And that's another guy. We put it up there that he's missed a lot of camp due to the ACT thing, but he's also coming off ACL surgery of his own last year. So now everything I've heard is he looks fantastic. Looks like, I was told he looks like some of those 1990s receivers, meaning the Pickens and the Harpers of the world. When I start hearing that, like, okay, that guy's got to have the right
Tell you,
size.
a guy
and
that's
cut.
been unsung in that receiving core that I think is going to get more chances because of what's going on with some other guys is Jonathan Johnson, and the coaches like him.
Yeah, he's very solid. One thing I thought was interesting, and getting to the depth issue, somebody on Twitter this week was telling me how that McNeil, I had a couple people telling me the McNeil injury was not that big a deal. Todd Kelly Jr. is a better player than him anyway. I said, well, then how has McNeil beaten him out 2 years in a row? But the bigger issue that I don't think a lot of people grasp is that when you lose McNeil and you slide Kelly up, you're now one man shorter in depth. Yeah, I mean, okay, let's Barry. All right, well, who's behind that? If Kelly goes down, Barry moves up, who's behind him? So I think that, well, you saw it last year at the receiver position. We went into the season saying, well, the good news about this Pig Howard stuff when he had his off-season stuff last year. The good news is you're really not going to need him because you're so deep. And who winds up being your leading receiver but Pig Howard? So, I mean, you don't want to lose that many bodies. And to put it in perspective, I saw might have been the Sentinel, somebody had the story this week that there's a website that was tracking injuries. And they had 40 BCS or FBS schools they were looking at, and there were 68 season-ending injuries already.
Yeah.
You got 3 at Tennessee? There's 68 in 40
4.
schools, and you got 3 at Tennessee, and it may be 4.
Yeah.
So, all right. When we come back, we'll look at some of the position battles going on at Tennessee. Do we feel confident in this area, or are we concerned in this area? Some of the positions we just talked about. Come on back on the Sports Source.
From East Tennessee to the Carolinas, no job is too big for Benedict Construction. Patios and decks, custom remodels, even custom homes. With a reputation for excellence, rely on the custom work of Benedict Construction.